And let me look at my bubble. There we are. We are recording.
Okay.
So, Lisa, can you talk about how you define what parent education is?
Sure. So parent education in our program, I feel, is an opportunity for parents to come together, network, support each other, but also to be supported by somebody who can provide some area of expertise in parenting. I have a background in pediatric nursing, so I feel I bring a balanced approach to parent education. I try to be very topic-oriented regarding just, basically the nuts and bolts of child development. I feel sometimes parents don't know what the norm is for toddlers or for children in general. So I really try to bring that piece of just basic child development, milestones, different developmental tasks that children are working on. And toddlers tends to be a very challenging time because they're not babies anymore. They're not completely dependent on their parents. They're also really seeking out autonomy. And I think parents are really struggling with that transition. So a lot of our parent education focuses on just basic, challenges that happen in parenting, whether it's potty training, whether it's a death of a grandparent. So it can range from just the practical everyday of how do I get my toddler to eat a balanced meal to we're really, having a family crisis. How do I parent during the midst of this? So I really feel like my philosophy is just, I start where the parent is or where our group is. And we really set up a dynamic where there's mutual trust. I kind of borrowed the Vegas term, what happens in parent ed stays in parent ed, unless I feel like there's a definite safety issue. And
Can we close the door?
oh, thank you.
Much appreciated.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. That will help on our audio.
Okay. So another aspect of parent ed is it very much reflects what's going on in the classroom. And this is more pertinent in the beginning of the year. Our school has a philosophy in which we take the first 6 weeks of school and we really utilize those first 6 to 8 weeks of school as community building in the classroom. So group norms are set, routine is set, parents and toddlers are becoming more thoroughly engaged and aware of the environment. So during that 6 weeks, we're really building trust and just really talking about what's happening in the classroom. So parent education is really talking about what are you doing as the parent in the parent worker role, because we have a parent worker that rotates through the classroom every day. So what are some of the challenges that a parent worker is going to encounter when they're helping in the classroom? So we'll do a lot of role modeling, we'll be doing a lot of problem solving, we'll talk about the language that we use in the classroom. We really adopt and embrace a democratic philosophy in our classroom, and I adopt that philosophy and the type of parenting style that I speak to in parent education as well. So what that looks like is in the classroom is we really are talking about what's happening. I really am noticing this. So in parent education, we're talking about, well, as a parent, how can you also take this type of language, this type of approach, and bring it home?
You talked about those basic information about child development and developmental milestones. Well, this question relates to that in a way. What if the parent's child doesn't go by the book? All of these things are typical and really represent kind of an average, but there's always individual differences. And related to that, how do you deal with the different values and beliefs that parents have about parenting?
I really try to foster a sense of everything is good. What you've experienced as a parent has a place in your parenting and in what you share in parent ed. Like I said, I really I tried to bring a more democratic parenting style to parent ed. I believe that's a piece I feel strongly about, and I tell parents that I feel strongly about it because in the end you want to build a relationship with your child. I think most parents really want to have a good relationship with their child, and I feel that children feel heard and respected when they are in a democratic environment, whether it's the classroom or whether it's the home situation. But I also preface that where I'm coming from a parent education standpoint and from addressing challenges through strategies, can be taken, taken with a grain of salt if need be. What resonates with them, please take and use in their tool bag, and what doesn't resonate with them, they can switch out for something that feels more appropriate. Some parents who were raised with more of an authoritarian style really think, well, I was raised this way, why can't I raise my child this way? So we really talk about different styles and what style is appropriate for which situation. And we want many tools in our parenting toolbox, so I wouldn't say that I wouldn't be a proponent of a certain authoritarian strategy, but I think it needs to be tempered, with that. So when there's differences, it's respected, at least. An example might be, I'm not a proponent of spanking, but there are parents who choose to use that as a parenting tool. And I really try to build trust in our parenting group to the point where a parent can come in and go, you know what, I've tried everything that you've taught me, Lisa, but I need to spank my child once in a while, and this is why. And we really tried to look at that as, okay, why are you spanking? What is the situation? How are you feeling after this? And really doing a reflection on that. So I really try not to shame anyone, but I also believe that there's always an alternative to spanking. And parents know that, but at the same time, I try to respect that is their preferred tool. So.
Can you share what you feel you've learned from parents and families?
I feel that professionally, what I've learned the most as a parent educator is to be a respectful listener. I feel that sometimes a parent really needs to share their experience completely without having somebody jump in and give advice right away. So being heard is a huge piece for toddlers, and I also think it's a huge piece for parents of toddlers. I think that there are so many things that parents put upon themselves, and I think sometimes when an issue comes up in parent ed, being a good listener or being a respectful listener is really important, because I think the issue that's being brought to our group is just the tip of the parent iceberg. So what I mean by that is that sometimes an issue will come up with a parent sharing a situation where something didn't go well at home, and they really wanted to talk about it, and what we call it deconstructing a situation. So there's a meltdown at home, or there's an interaction between the parent and the child that didn't go well. A lot of times that's shared in parent ed, and we kind of deconstruct that. What could you have done, or what did you do? What did you do right? What do you feel in retrospect you would have done differently? But that tip of the iceberg can sometimes show that there's some underlying thing. And what I see with a lot of parents is there's a lot of parent guilt. Parents come into parenting always assuming that they're not doing the right thing, that things didn't go well because they didn't know better, or they don't trust in their instincts, and that they're going to traumatize their child by whatever strategy that they tried. And so I really try to honor that we're all in this together, and we're all doing this the best way we can, and just because we make a mistake doesn't mean that our child is not going to do well. So I think a lot of honoring their beginning journey in parenting, and really validating that they have this desire to do well, and sometimes that's the most important thing.
So is one of the goals to help parents build confidence in their own abilities as parents and building that relationship?
Definitely. I definitely feel that, one of the goals I try to, bring to our parent education program is to give parents the tools to feel like the most competent, confident parent they can be. And we're all going to have moments. I tend to share personal stories. I have 2 teenage boys, and so they get to see the other end of the spectrum. And I share with them that toddlers and adolescents developmentally are very similar. So it tends to give a range. It gives them something to, project out. What type of child or what type of person do you really want to nurture along the way? And I also try to really, my biggest goal is to have parents understand that their children are extremely resilient and adaptable, and that one little parenting mistake is not going to make or break the outcome. So I think that's a huge piece that I hope all parents leave parent ed with.
So you have kind of 2 hats at the program. So can you describe the other role you play at the school?
My other hat that I play, besides parent educator, is I'm also the school nurse. And that is a really wonderful role. I love working with children. Children have always been my passion. I've been a pediatric nurse since I left nursing school. And it's really wonderful to work with relatively well children. So my role as a school nurse is I play a big part in health and safety on campus, do some education with parents regarding our illness policy. Our illness policy is pretty basic. We don't expect children to be at school when they have a fever or they've had tummy issues like vomiting and diarrhea. That if your child is not feeling well, even if they don't have any of these symptoms, we really need to, balance out. If your child's feeling ill, are they really going to be a capable learner that day? So there's an education as to how do you, tell whether your child is truly ill and needs a break or, needs to tough it out and come to school. The other education piece that I do with my school nurse role is I do classroom education with the kids. We talk a lot about good hand washing and keeping each other healthy. I weigh in on the snack policy here on campus, and we just revised that to be more of a healthy snack, what examples of that look like. I feel like we're very blessed because our community is very, very health aware and very dedicated to having healthy food, modeling healthy habits. We don't have a lot of obese children here. We don't have diabetics on campus. So I feel like our overall culture is very health aware.
So this leads a little bit into my next question. So when children do require special health care, for instance, if they have asthma or if there are special needs involved, what role do you play in that?
Children that need special care or special needs at school, I'm definitely here to meet their needs, but we also have another person on campus, our receptionist, who is what I call my deputy nurse. And she's here 100% of the time, and I'm usually, all over campus. So she's usually the first person that a child will come in and see. Special needs here at our school range anywhere from preschoolers coming in with splinters or beads up their nose to a child who has asthma, who is having an exacerbation episode, who needs their inhaler. We do have children that require daily medication, so both Marilyn and I provide that care. She tends to do a lot of the nurturing and screening, and I do a lot of the kind of technical stuff, if things are really bloody or there's a broken bone, or if there's an emergency. We've had to call 911 a couple of times, that I'm pretty much, orchestrating that. But we work really closely together on that.
How do you balance health and safety needs with risks needed to grow and learn?
It is challenging to balance that, health and safety aspect, especially at a school when there's liability issues, with really supporting a child to meet all of their developmental or their gross motor, mastery. What really attracted me to our school is just how supportive the school is with allowing children to take what I consider healthy risks. We have swings on campus. Our children run around campus without shoes on. We have these great free tree stumps that kids roll around and kind of build bridges with and jump with and roll down hills. And, some of that natural consequences, a couple of times a toe gets pinched or somebody stumbles off a log. But they're healthy risks, and we really talk about, well, what could you do next time to be more safe? Or before somebody engages in something that might be really fun but questionably safe, we really talk about, do you think that's the best thing you could do right now with that? Would there be a safer choice? So we really try to balance that developmental need by supervision, definitely, but also reflection with the child. What could you do that would be just as fun but more safe? And that's not just something that is modeled by me, but it's also modeled by the teachers. So we really, as a general faculty and staff, really embrace that completely. And I try not to be the nervous Nelly. I mean, there's definitely times where I can walk through campus and just go, okay, glad they're being supervised by somebody else. But that is so, so rare. And I just feel that kids really don't get enough opportunity to take some of those healthy risks. And I love that we get to do it here.
Okay, we're done.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Sure. That was easy.
That microphone